Hi, my name is Marcelo-Chia, and I'll be presenting upon my media representation project, more specifically about young gay men in media. So, a little background: the fight for equal rights has been based on sexuality, has been a long fought battle in the eyes of the media since the 1990s. But overall, the fight for normalcy and acceptance um, for this community has been around since the 1920s. Within recent years now, within recent years before the legalization of marriage equality, shows that feature same-sex relationships have been revolutionary for their time. With this increased normalcy, we can explore the heavier nuances of these rounded characters, no longer having them as a monolith within the representation for the community. Focusing on old and new representation of gay young men in society, we can view the idea of the old media and the good of the new media. Focusing on these aspects of each, we can better see how the time in which they were made drove the stereotypes and the simplification or increased nuances of characters within said media. And for this specific presentation, I want to focus on Queer as Folk, released in 2000, and Love Victor, released in 2020, 20 years later. I want to compare both of these multi-season shows that explore the lives of young gay men and their societal perceptions and their allowed roles within society through the representation explored in these shows. So the bad. I chose Queer as Folk because although released in 2000s, it was revolutionary for its time and their portrayal of nuanced gay men in the early 2000s society. Their heavy use of stereotypes feed into the negative idea that all gay men are sexually promiscuous. These ideas stem from the much more harmful rhetoric shared and created during the AIDS epidemic towards gay men. Um, an excerpt from a scientific, a scholarly study I found was early experiences that youth have, which involve sexual identity and images of relationships and media, impact how they begin to think about themselves. If they are constantly exposed to negative about queer identity through media or social experiences, they can come to hold the same attitudes. And in the case of queer youth, this can negatively impact how they think about themselves and their own identity. We have not reached a point in our culture where being queer does not impact how one navigates the world and one's relationships with others. What this means, or what this aims to say, is that unhealthy portrayals of entering and existing within gay relationships affects the way in which young gay men view these specific aspects of life, which are common themes within queer as folk of pretty unhealthy and toxic relationships with like power imbalances and very large age gaps. This early impact has negative lifelong consequences for how young gay men operate in the world around them and even within their own community. The good. In Love Victor, released in 2020, we are introduced to a myriad of complex and rounded gay characters. These characters in the story don't feed into any major negative stereotypes, which perpetuate a normalization of harmful rhetoric. The characters in this show are incredibly nuanced and even flawed in order to express their humanity. Seeing this realistic form of representation can bolster the community and one's self-image concerning their sexual orientation. Another quote I chose from a scholarly article was a positive self-concept such as comfort in a queer identity might lead to self-acceptance and attachment security. The engagement in queer community has shared struggle and belonging with other queer individuals. Thus, it promotes the belief that support is available and develops trust in others. Consequently, as individuals become more comfortable trusting others and forming support networks, or they develop opportunities for working through negative feelings about their own sexuality. Bowden, released in 2024, the study. What this means to say is positive representation has the power to tie these communities together and allow them to better find strength and comfort within themselves. Being able to see oneself in media portrayed in a healthy and positive light can only provide positive, long-lasting feelings of acceptance and sense of normalcy in one's identity. My personal perspective, as someone who identifies as gay, I agree with the information that I synthesized from the knowledge that I got from the sources. Things that might have seemed revolutionary for their time can always be improved upon as culture and identities are constantly changing. The negative portrayals are simply products of their time that got the word out there and opened the eye for so many people of the normal existence of gay people. In doing so, these pieces of media have made, during the same period, pushed false and harmful stereotypes. We nowadays have the privilege to live in a time where we can see marginalized communities like young gay men as more than a monolith of the entire community or as mere stereotypes. Young gay men are portrayed through all the aspects that you would see associated with cis straight teenagers, all the angst and terrible, selfish, cruel decisions that are not negative factors that mar the community as a whole, but tools that show the realism that we may now allow these characters. With the advance of representation normalizing the experiences of gay people, within the minds of more and more people, the better representation we are going to be able to get. Shows where in which gay relationships are normalized and not the central conflict, merely an aspect of the character that forces straight characters existed since the beginning of film. With more and more representation, we can better carve out a future full of acceptance, which can create a positive cycle of normalcy, self-acceptance, and community. Overall, as times change, the way that we portray marginalized communities like young gay men must change. With it, allowing us a larger picture of the community and the capacity to truly see the nuances reflected in it can further fuel positive perception for members and viewers of said community. These are my scores cited, and I believe proper APA format. And thank you for listening.